I'm Holly Hayward. I'm a practice nurse prescriber, originally from North Devon at Heartland Surgery, but recently
Okay.
moved up to Oxfordshire. But whilst on my time at Heartland Surgery, I started having practice nurses join our team, and I felt that that was really important to be able to help not only the student nurses, but for my own professional development, to be able to question how come I know things that I know, where's the evidence, and how can I impart that on somebody else. Yeah, so we're a really small rural practice. So we joined up with another small rural practice in our locality. We're reasonably close together in distance in North Devon. So that made sense for us because then our students could go between the two surgeries, and it was
Sure.
literally a 50-50 split. So half of the time in one practice, half of the time in our practice. And that made our relationships work really well as well. We
Yeah.
found that even though we're both very similar practices, it meant that the student could see a whole wealth of differences between even two surgeries that on paper are the same as standalone
Sure.
practice nurse, having lots of rural patient populations, so farming communities, young families, and elder generation people.
Sure.
So yeah, to start with, it was really good to just put the feelers out. I just sent an email via, obviously got my practice manager's permission, and
Sure.
then sent an email saying, can we start having student nurses? How do I go about this? And the training hub definitely helped to be able to find out that information, and got put over towards the University of Bolton and their little hub that runs from Barnstable, Petrock. But the practice as a whole, they loved having student nurses because there was somebody new
Yeah.
with different ideas, and student nurses are the best because they have such wide-eyed view of
Mm.
nursing. They're so keen and confident. They want to help and change the world, which is what
Mm.
we all want to do.
Mm.
But as we get a little bit further in, we sometimes lose our passion in certain areas. So it's good to get your passion flowing again.
Mm-hmm.
And from a student's point of view, they really liked having not only one mentor in practice, but having a second one as well. So having an assessor in a
Mm.
different location, because they could bounce ideas off us both.
Sure.
And that really helped. And I think from their point of view, being in a rural practice, a small practice, meant that they were very much part of the team from day
Mm-hmm.
one. The whole practice knew they were coming, knew their name, knew a little bit about them, and we're very keen to get them, involved in all the work we do, from dispensary to GP to, if we had a midwife coming in or a health visitor, we could liaise with them, the district nurses, even down to the hospice nurses for like end of life care in their own home, which is really
Yeah.
important too.
That's brilliant. That's great. And were there any challenges?
Um, Not really. I know that sounds
Mm.
like, oh, really, but not really. And that's because there's such good support from the university as well.
Mm.
So occasionally, we had student nurses that might need a little bit of time off if they were having an operation or
Mm.
they weren't very well, things like that. But it was just well managed. We just, as long
Right.
as communication was good, which it always was with the university,
Yeah.
it was always managed well. And the students that we had were really, really friendly, really nice, and were very, very keen about general practice. So I
Mm.
know that one of my student nurses who came to have a placement with us while I was at Heartland has actually now got a job in primary
Primary
care.
care.
So
That's
because of
amazing.
the time she spent with us, so that's really
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I think if it's something you really want to do, then go for it, because it can be tricky if you've got an idea and your practice maybe isn't so supportive. But speak to other agencies like
Mm.
you who can help us, the training hub, to be able to try and find ways around it. Even if you had, a student that then had maybe three different practice areas all in general practice, keep, banging the drum for
Mm.
student nurses, because if there's no placements, we won't have any nurses going forward that know anything about general practice or want to come into general practice. I would definitely recommend, don't have a student in your first kind of year as a general practice nurse. Make sure that you are an experienced practice nurse yourself, because you have to have all that underpinning knowledge to be able to pass it on to them. And it is an extra part of your day and your workload to balance them as well. So you need to be well seated. You were just saying about make sure you're stable, make sure you're happy in your job, you're stable in your job, and that you can put in a plan for that student of how they're going to get the best from your placement. And I became a general practice nurse because I had the most amazing general practice placement. And I know that if we can give people a really good quality placement where they feel welcomed and they feel supported to be able to learn properly, that they will become amazing practice nurses. And that's, you're investing in the future of nursing.